the early 1990s, and Greeks around the world are up in arms. But why are they so concerned? What is this agitation all about? It's about a land, a culture, and a name. It's a complex story, steeped in a history of intrigue, territorial rights, and endless political conflict. The region of Macedonia sits here in the Balkans, in the southeast corner of Europe. Throughout its history, this ill-defined region has suffered from the pillaging and warring of countless armies: Persians, Romans, Slavs, Turks, Bulgarians, and others, all of them invading for access to this, the highly desired Aegean Sea.
How long does it take to climb the mountain?
3 hours by walking.
To understand this story, we must begin a journey here in Macedonia, in northern Greece. These young men are cousins. Steve is from Australia and Danny from Canada.
Mountain right there?
Yes, right up the top up there.
They have traveled halfway around the world to visit the homeland of their ancestors.
Our village is right in the middle. I've ever seen pictures.
This Macedonian village, Kratero, in far northern Greece, is where their parents were born. From family and friends left behind, the young men learn about their culture. It is here that they begin to understand what it is that makes them feel so undeniably Greek.
These are my grandmother's, my dad's mother, Maria Koukopoulos.
By traveling back through history, clues can be uncovered. What is revealed is a highly developed Greek culture. Works of some of the world's greatest artists, philosophers, and poets are to be discovered, even today. Nearly 2,000 years before the birth of Christ, Greek tribes moved from already established settlements in southern Greece to this rugged mountainous range in the north. It was here, around Mount Olympus, that those ancient Greek tribes created their first cities.
The traditions about the early Macedonians is that they lived on Mount Olympus and in Pieria, that is the mountains to the north of Mount Olympus, and that was the ancient Macedonian land. It's certain that at that time they were shepherds who moved to and fro, and their early traditions are all about goats and things. And so the Macedonian people originated in that area, and in fact it's likely that Dion was the first place where they gathered together as a society and as a nation. The plain itself by Dion is very well watered and rich, of course, from the Olympus waters. And so it was a very prosperous area, of which the center was Dion. And so there they founded their first city, probably, or their first shrines, anyhow, and temples. The Macedonians were very religious people and worshipped a very large number of gods, which included all the leading gods of the southern Greeks, and worshipped them in the same way with the same cult. And they worshipped Zeus, and they founded the city Dion in honor of Zeus. It means divine city. So the fact that the Macedonians worshipped the same gods as the Greeks further south in the same way, in the same traditions and background, shows that they were themselves a Greek people.
But other cities in Macedonia were waiting to be discovered, and Vergina is possibly the most exciting yet. With each stone unturned, we understand more and more of the origins of Macedonian culture. Around this ancient palace, Macedonian tombs have been uncovered.
Ο τάφος του Ρωμαίου είναι γνωστός από τα χρόνια του πολέμου. πιο μπροστά τον ήξεραν μόνο οι χωρικοί και τον χρησιμοποιούσαν για τα ζώα τους. Ο τάφος είναι πάρα πολύ σπουδαίος και για την αρχιτεκτονική του αλλά και για την ιστορία της ανασκαφής, γιατί είχαμε εδώ έναν από τα πρώτα μνημεία που ανακαλύφθηκαν εδώ στην Βεργίνα. Είναι σπουδαίος επίσης γιατί σώθηκαν οι πόρτες του οι μαρμάρινες και βεβαίως ο μαρμάρινος αυτός θρόνος που θα δούμε στη συνέχεια. Αυτό δείχνει ότι στη Βεργίνα είχαμε μια αναπτυγμένη ζωή, είχαμε μια πλούσια καθημερινή ζωή με έπιπλα, με κάθε τι που ξέρει κανείς από την αρχαία Ελλάδα.
This tomb and its contents gave an extraordinary insight into the lives of those ancient Macedonians. But even more than that, this discovery was an important link to the greatest discovery yet to come. Inside this perfectly preserved solid gold larnax lay the bones of one of the greatest Macedonian kings, Philip II, father of Alexander the Great. These are the remains of a man with extraordinary political and military skills. He planned the great campaign against the Persians, later carried out by his son Alexander. Philip's political ingenuity brought the warring separate city-states of the day together into one united Greek nation. He highly valued Greek culture and was a great patron of the arts. Alongside the larnax and the bones in his unplundered tomb were other unimaginable treasures confirming the existence of great wealth and a very high culture.
The king was immensely wealthy. He owned all the timber of the country and all the mines, so he possessed the gold and silver which came out of the mines. And so he was rather like an Arab potentate. He had enormous wealth.
Professor Hammond had been the prophet of this discovery. For years he believed that this must be Ayez, the capital of ancient Macedonia. The discovery of the royal tombs proved that he had been right.
The palace was built here early on. I mean, there must have been a palace here from the 6th century BC onwards. But what we see is probably built around 300 BC by a king called Cassander. But it may even be earlier. But certainly it's on the site of an earlier palace. And what we're seeing is a thing comparable to Buckingham Palace, with a great courtyard here, which would be where there were military parades and big receptions. The residential quarters of the king, place for worship, a sort of chapel around building there. And all around this courtyard there are banqueting rooms. The quality of the work shows that the Macedonians were leading architects, particularly in the construction of great buildings, because in southern Greece, apart from temples, there was nothing, well, even temples didn't approach the scale of these buildings. So it was very, very impressive by Greek standards at the time. We, before we used archaeological discoveries, thought perhaps the culture was very low. But these discoveries have shown that, in fact, Macedonia was leading in the world of art, in such things as temple architecture, I mean, tomb architecture and palace architecture, and mosaics and in frescoes. So it entirely revolutionized our view of what Macedonian civilization and culture was like at the time of Philip. And that explains why Alexander was able to plant and spread Greek culture, which is his own culture, all over the East.
Here in this ancient city of Pella, Alexander the Great, son of Philip, was born and raised. Pella, built in 400 BC by the earlier king Archelos, was already an important center of art and culture.
Well, the Macedonian kings possessed the wealth of the country, so they were immensely rich and they could attract anyone they wished to their court. And Archelaus attracted Euripides, for instance, to come, and he wrote his play, The Bacchae, another play called Archelaus.